NXT Deadline is in the books. Spaz and I are here. We're ready to review Deadline. Better late than never. Into somewhere. Let's go ahead and hit that intro.
From the opening bell to the final dance, we analyze every win and loss chance. Their theories unravel in a lively chat. Jake and Spaz bring you where the action's at. Bring you where the action's at.
Ladies and gents, what's going on? Glad to see everybody here for a action-packed review for NXT Deadline. I have the one, the only, the incomparable, the incredible Spaz Phoenix with me. What's going on, my pal, my friend? Happy holidays.
Yeah, what's going on, buddy? We're almost there. We're almost at Santa time. We're almost at New Year's time. We're almost in Netflix season, if you will. I'm excited.
So close, yet so far. I'm very excited. You know, that kind of the state of wrestling we kind of touched on the other day. We had two episodes this week, essentially, one preview and one kind of a gloating WWE praise session, but for a great
and
reason.
Crying about the New Day.
Absolutely. You know, a little bit of betrayal and somewhat a sense of urgency for Big E to get his butt back here. Excuse me as I go ahead and lose the air out of my lungs. But I was just thrilled to see that there's been things that are positive and fun, and we're getting the payoffs for storylines that they touched upon many years ago. They're not just dropping things left and right. They're not doing things from out of nowhere. Little copyright infringement. They're not doing things that are illogical anymore, because that was the biggest takeaway for me. I made the Jinder Mahal comparison. That's like the Chewbacca defense. You know, it's you know, how could they have a Wookiee on Endor kind of thing? And it just never fit for me.
If Chewbacca lives on Endor, you must acquit.
Exactly. So you have to. No glove, no Chewie, no Endor. I'm telling you. So, yeah, we've got a lot to be happy about with WWE. All steam forward ahead. They just keep plowing through and moving. They've had like 68 sold-out live shows at this point for this year. That's incredible. I mean, that's one a week and then some. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's guaranteed at least.
I mean, they
had
had to drop the in a row because I think they got one or two shows that were like 95% full, which is still pretty fucking good at the end of the day.
Even when they went to bumfuck nowhere at times, were they still selling out just because of how hot the road to WrestleMania was. And I think this year has a lot of intrigue. I know you and I at some point soon will touch base on our retrospective and favorites from 2024.
Yeah,
I think
and I'll
there's
look
a lot
forward
to
as
be
well.
had. Yeah, exactly. You know, what's to come? What have we enjoyed from this year? The good, the bad, the ugly, the changes, and the new directions that we've seen a lot of things take place in. It's been a good run, and
It has, yeah.
I'm happy that things
Not
are
perfect.
finally. No, certainly not, and I'm not blind to it either. But I'm thrilled that things are finally in a positive direction as to where we're not getting railroaded and completely destroyed with, why are we seeing this? Why is this happening? We knew why. It was an audience of one with Vince, but
I think now it's more like we have stuff that's worked, we have stuff that's like starting, but I think the bigger part of it is when they come out with a new idea, like there was that, I don't know how to say it, that mentality of, but they're going to drop it in 3 weeks. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's a hard sell. Like they did it in NXT first. With the I'm using the ladies mid-card titles as the example here. They did it in NXT first because NXT kind of allows itself to be a proving ground for stuff like that.
Yeah, certainly.
They did it with Becky kind of. I mean, we touched on it on the pod the other day. Becky using the NXT title as sort of a mid-card title on Raw was sort of a soft launch. But I will say, them on the main roster launching 2 back-to-back women's mid-card titles, it's a big hill to get over, but I don't look at it and be immediately like, oh, that's going to fall off a cliff.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, certainly not the end all that we thought it would be. You know, it's not a disaster. It's not something that just totally was completely out of the left field, and that's helped a lot with a lot of this. So Shout out to Eddie in the chat. It's Liz's birthday. Happy birthday to Liz. We're
Hey,
gonna stop
happy
over
birthday,
to her
Liz.
stream afterwards. Later on, I gotta find out what's in the box.
Oh dear.
Sorry, I had to do it. What's in the box? Liz did send me something great for Christmas. I've not opened it yet. Danny just checked it for me, so she knew what who it was from.
It's not ticking, barking, or leaking. So you're good.
No bombs residue whatsoever. Tested clean for GSR as well, so we're safe.
I work in warehousing. I don't test packages on a daily basis. Not at all.
Right. We don't even need the dogs anymore. We got Spaz for that. You can point them right out. That, sir, is a bomb.
Yeah.
You could tell with the postal worker outfit.
How did you know it was a bomb? Well, I sniffed its ass.
I just little dipstick. Check
So
the oil.
let's talk about your new rivalry. Now that your rivalry with Elon Musk is over, now you've got a rivalry with Comcast.
Yes, I know. We're talking about they're trying to upgrade the internet in the area, so they have some fiber laid down, and they want to have it be all on like that gigabit server for Comcast. So Xfinity.
See, look,
has been
even
working-
Oba's mad for you.
I know I'm
I'm looking at the
pissed.
wrong graphic now. Never mind.
No, you got it. He's cycling through. So
Yeah.
Oba is just a beast, and I wish he could come here and settle that for me.
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot stand their business practices to begin with. There's a reason why Comcast was voted worst business so many years in a row. Their customer service leaves so much to be desired. They're just not on the ball when it comes to caring about customers. They monopolize the market by essentially freezing out the competition. So because they became a monopoly, they got to a point where they were so big that they weren't allowed to consume any more companies or areas. So smaller companies could still have a chance, but those smaller companies have to rent the line usage off of Comcast poles, and they were charging them ridiculous fees, so they weren't making it either. So pretty much now, if you don't have Comcast, you have Comcast. And if you don't have Comcast, you have Comcast. But if you don't have Comcast, you have nothing. Like, that's because they leave you with no option or something that's ridiculously expensive for next to no connection. They know what they're doing. They have the bundles they like to keep you in. And what's in the box? Yeah, they like to keep you, like, held down with those. We haven't used the house phone in years. We only use our cell phones. No one ever watches cable here. It's always Netflix or things of the like. I watch wrestling on the computer usually, things like that. So trying to get rid of either of those makes the bill more expensive, not less.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's like going to McDonald's and saying, like, if you don't get the burger and fries, or sorry, the fries and the shake, the burger is going to be more expensive.
Exactly.
I will say,
you didn't get the meal.
And we touched on it a while ago. Like, Netflix is going to be in the conversation until it happens, so we might as well not try to avoid it.
Exactly.
I realistically said, and I said it to you, and I said it to a bunch of other people, wrestling was really the only reason I was holding on to cable at all. And even in that sense, I could find other ways to watch it if I really wanted to.
And there's even legal alternative means now where you don't even have to. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's gotten to a point now.
Every station now has an internet equivalent. Like,
yes, thankfully.
I've told you about Sportsnet 360 that basically carry everything.
Yeah, they've
for
got
us
it all
up here.
for you guys.
It's not like a CW, Fox, USA network going back to CW. Like, for us, it's always been Sportsnet 360.
So you're not going from One Tree Hill to NXT back to Boy Meets World reruns?
That's the thing that always... I won't lie, it doesn't matter in the slightest, but when everybody was making the AEW jokes, let's check it off, first AEW joke of the night.
Off the bucket list?
The biggest draw for AEW is Sheldon, because they got the Big Bang Theory, and it's like
because of that lead-in for a long time, and now even
AEW, well, like, you guys got the lead-in from Big Bang Theory, and up here it's on TSN. So, like, I've always, like, from a TV point of view, gone from some kind of sport to the wrestling. It's always been like the sport going into sports entertainment, not the entertainment going into sports entertainment. It's funny on I think it's on Tuesdays, but the right before NXT, if you switch it over you got the World Tag League.
Yeah.
Which is insane if you've ever seen that.
There's so many options and so much availability. And like you said, you could honestly, if they had a televised program in the sense of what we get now, from other companies. You
can find it somewhere else.
Yeah, Destiny, would be great to have their, program like on a national basis. That would be incredible for what they put on, for the quality and for the size of their promotion. There's a lot of indie federations right now that have e-shows weekly, and then they have e-pay-per-views now, and it's all the norm. You know, when Ring of Honor and TNA were making you buy weekly pay-per-views and things like that, it was like, oh, who's paying for wrestling in that regard? Like, that was crazy. Now it's
But I
like
mean,
you have
if you hear
subscriptions
about
everywhere.
I closer to when it first opened, because I didn't get it at first.
Yeah.
Closer to when it opened, the numbers when they started TNA Plus were like astoundingly over what they were expecting to get.
Yeah.
Because I had
they
said
flooded their servers.
I had said for the longest time, like, oh, why would anybody partner with Big Bad Evil Fed? And it's like, well, if they've got their elbow in the door with Netflix, maybe they bring TNA along for the ride. Like,
Yeah, and that's what they're hoping for. And
Yeah.
if that gets accomplished, I mean, think about
but I mean,
what
they've
they
got
do.
their own service, and it's awesome.
And that's been
TNA
great.
Plus is great. By the
Look
way.
at how long the fans of AEW cried out for, myself included. Hey, you have 5 years worth of Dynamite that we can't go back and watch. There's no way to consume it at this point except through pirated means. So now they're starting to upload to Max and whatnot. But for years we've demanded, in a sense, to have access to the content that they've aired beforehand. So it's good to see some of that coming back around and getting its play. But NXT just had that big time feel to it. And
Oh yeah.
what I loved about NXT is not what a lot of people picked up on, but the fact that they had 2 major deadline matches that were booked great and handled very seriously. No comedy goo goo gaga, no weapons spots and plunder and 15
No.
tables and chairs. Everything felt impactful, meaningful, rushed, and hectic, but in the most organized,
Yep.
logical way possible. And neither main title was on the line. This was all about building 2 new stars, essentially.
Well, no, the main men's title with Trick and Ridge.
I meant in the Survivor matches. I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
I should have specified, but yeah, in
Yeah.
those Survivor matches, no titles on the line. Those matches being the keepsake of the night, they wanted to go ahead and just develop new stars, and that's like having 2 Hell in a Cell matches with new talent that aren't the champs. It's kind of unheard. So to have those just be focused on, we're going to create 2 new number 1 contenders. This is how we're going to tell our story. One with a little bit of surprise, one with a little bit of expectation, and we're going to kind of flip a few things on its head. I love the storytelling.
The only thing you would say potentially that comes close to that is Elimination Chamber, because usually it's to build towards title matches at WrestleMania, but they have put the titles in the chamber as well. So not even with that. What I thought of, and I didn't think of it, you mentioned like not a lot of plunder, not a lot of, brouhaha and all that. The fact that you're going in there and you're scoring points in individual falls throughout the match, and those points can be earned through disqualification.
Yeah.
It puts it above the Royal Rumble in the sense of anybody can bring anything into a Royal Rumble. There's no rules. That's part of the fun. That's why you had Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie coming in with their weapons the one year. I think it was in Madison Square Garden. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me down in the box below. And now that was a great spot because you have a Chainsaw Charlie and you have a Cactus Jack. And of course they would start it that way.
Of course.
But it's you talked about it in the preview, the amount of planning and precise nature of putting something together like this, where everything revolves around timing, not just the entrance, but the penalty box and all that kind of thing. And you limit yourself even further when you say, no, we got to stick to some rules here. Like, there is disqualification, so we don't have any like storytelling props to play with in that regard. So every time somebody points out something about the Iron Survivor match, I grow in my opinion that it's probably my favorite new stipulation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, holy hell. And there's things that just, like you said with the Rumble, they have a way they can build up, they can build stars, they can really have a blast with it. And I look forward to each iteration and how it develops, because like those matches, this one's, as you mentioned, even more intricate, even more involved. You have to have everything planned out essentially to an exact science for when you need it. You can't just say, oh, I'll have you pin here and you pin here, because you have to know, all right, well, that person can't be pinned again because they're out for 90 seconds. And we still have to keep the timer going for somebody else to come in. And so there's a lot of working parts, a lot of ways to, clog those gears and make this fall to crap. And somehow they managed to hold it all together. absolutely incredible. One more time, I do want to mention at the top of the hour before we get into the hardcore review for NXT Deadline 2024 with my great friend Spaz on the latest episode of Into Somewhere. That's right. But I'm going to put it in the chat right now. You go ahead and check out Liz's Twitch channel. We'll be stopping in there afterwards for her birthday stream. It's her birthday. She sent me something. Got to find out what's in the box in a little bit. And, you know, I just hope she's having a great birthday. So let's get right into it. Spaz, we kick off right here. They're in the one, the only Armory from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's
I wanted
airing
to touch on
Peacock.
this. I like this.
Yes.
I know
Please.
people from the other side are going to say, oh, well, you didn't fill like 10,000 people, which is absolutely true. And I will say, no, you're right. We didn't. And we'll carry on with the conversation. I like that they are going to different places and unsuspecting places, and shit looks different.
Yes.
Because if you can't give me, like, I'm thinking we're a long way away from NXT being in a stadium. Like, let's be realistic about that. But if you can't go big, go different. And that is the one thing I will say about watching TNA shows, because TNA doesn't typically do arenas. They have all kinds of different weird kind of venues. And this one looked different. And I don't even have anything really to compare it to, because you had the one side of the building that didn't have any, like, there's no bleacher set up, like the balconies are on either side. So it looked, when you looked at the one side of it, it looked like you were outside looking at the side of a building already. It felt like you were in a neighborhood and the whole neighborhood was watching the show.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that tiered look to it without it being a full-on balcony section. Yeah, very, very cool setup. The lights were done
very
well.
narrow, it kind of got that intimate feeling that you and I have talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, that claustrophobic sense, absolutely. And it got you in nice and close to the action. And what it did is it made it feel even more lively at times. And there was a couple of times where I felt the crowd was a little more quiet than I would have liked them to have been, especially during the men's tag title defense.
Yeah.
But they still cheered when they needed to, and those guys ended up working them into a frenzy. But
we're going outside the PC again. I think they're doing. I didn't write anything down. I should have. I was feeling really lazy last night. But they're doing one more outside of the PC episode before we get to the end of December. And then Ava announced that New Year. She didn't specify whether it was a special event or whether it was a weekly episode. She was very vague with it. But she did say that New Year's Evil is taking place in LA. So have they found a small, different, intricate venue in LA that we haven't seen before? It's cool, man. This whole, like, hopping in and out of the PC as and when they find a new interesting place is the way to go, as opposed to thinking we have to find a place every week, you know, ditching the PC entirely. It's like, no, we go out when there's a place to go, and they've still got a place to land when they don't have a place to go. That happy medium is a really important spot. So, like, nothing in either direction is cut off.
And one of my favorite things of the night that is very quickly overlooked and overstated, or maybe understated is more the term I should say, because it just didn't leave the impact I think they wanted it to, but the emphasis was there. Yeah. After the first match, they had a very brief little thing with Lexis King. Yeah. And it's one of those, they don't do it too often, and the announcers didn't quite add to this, which I had hoped they would mention something when they came back, or clue the fans in. But Minnesota is a real, like, dark stain on the Pillman legacy. Not only was his last match, I think it was in St. Paul. I know but he also died in Minnesota as well. Okay. So having his son walking in the freezing cold saying, I didn't even qualify for the Iron Survivor Challenge, and this city, it changed my life forever, and it left me with no one to look up to. I'm not chasing ghosts, and I'm going to exceed anything he ever did. And he's like, nothing feels better than the warm air of satisfaction. And he walks away, and I was like, wow, is that deep? I mean,
I like the fact that
I was a little bit speechless. He lost who he looked up to here. He lost his dad. The biggest inspiration he had, his reason for, at that time, what he wanted to aspire to be. And I don't know if enough people knew the correlation between the legacy of Minnesota and the Pillman family, but
I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't have picked up on it 100%. I do like, and I think he's the weirdest example, because I don't think anybody was digging into what he was doing when he first came in. It felt very, like, here's a person and we've given them a character rather than character development.
Yeah.
So but by the time we get to the end of the night, and we'll take things in the order that they came, but there's 3 or 4 people in NXT that have nowhere to go, not in the sense of, oh, we haven't booked them properly, but we are booking them as people who have nowhere to go, but they're all getting a chance to talk about it, which makes you curious, which makes you like,
Yeah.
you've got King, you've got Andre Chase, you've got also obviously the other former members of Chase U, and we've got, I mean, we'll talk later about Ethan Page and his weird interview in the catering that was set up in the parking lot.
It was strange,
It was
but
strange.
he's feeling himself now. He's thinking he did something good. We'll see.
Yeah. I still think I'm skipping the line here, but I still think I gotta believe Alexander's coming.
Yeah, I mean, you're really on that. I could see it happening.
I'm biased.
But
I really like the guy, and I really think he could do a hell of a lot in WWE.
I hope so. I mean, certainly do I hope to see that.
Yeah.
I'm just apprehensive because of how many new talents they have at this point and how many things they have going on. But it's never a bad idea for them not to keep. They could do so much with him. So. Hell of a competitor, but again,
I think we're going to get quite a drain starting in January, though. When you think of not only Raw going back to 3 hours supposedly, but SmackDown as well.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a roster cull in NXT.
There is already rumored to be plans that they're going to be draining a lot of the main talent from NXT, and there's going to be massive call-ups to fill the spots for the third hour on both sides, because they want to. Netflix allegedly on every show wants titles, if not being defended, at least being set up to be defended. Like you're doing a number one contenders match, you're doing a promo about the title the next week, like something, but there's a segment involving every title. So think about that.
Imagine that. They want to draw on every episode.
But now you always have to defend
right?
the mid-card men's, the mid-card women's, the men's world title, the women's world title, the tag titles, and the women's tag titles, possibly, depending on, that's what, 7 belts?
I think that could put a lot of cool, like from a storytelling point of view, but also from a champion point of view, is if we decided we're going to put a title on you, that means you're wrestling every week. But from a storytelling point of view, you can have whoever you're feuding with. Like I'll say Nakamura, for example. He's the newest mid-card champion we got, right?
Sith Nakamura.
So if he has a long-standing feud with, say, Carmelo, I'm just pulling names out of a hat, right?
Not Andrade. Gotcha.
They've got a long-term get going on from now until the next pay-per-view. So he's got to contend with this big feud and handle the pressure of, I'm a champion. I also have to go from the sporting aspect of things and know there's new challengers coming for me every week.
Yes.
I think that's a very cool way to illustrate the weight of a champion on a contender. Like, do you have contenders because they want to get a piece of you, or do you have contenders because it's a sporting event and people want titles? Well, you want both. You got this guy over here that wants your title. You got this guy over here that doesn't like you and want to kick you in the nuts. Those don't have to necessarily be the same people.
No, certainly. They don't have to intersect. You can have things kind of flow naturally and happen all over the place, and that's what I loved about Raw. It started with one purpose. It started, and we'll get into more NXT, but this all coincides nicely because of the line that they threaded with NXT lately, and having some people kind of be fluid enough to go back and forth down there like a Punk, so we've seen it with Becky Lynch. We've seen some great things done with the main roster in the last 2 years' time, since Triple H has really gotten a chance to sink his claws into it.
Well, we might as well touch on it as well, because we never really got to talk about SmackDown. First of all, Chad Gable versus Cody Rhodes. Who knew we needed that?
That was a great promo,
fantastic.
Great build. That was a great one.
Great
of those
match.
Great.
Except they should have shot it differently, because they made Shorty G look really short. Whenever they went to the long shot, and you could see the both of them, and it's like, oh, that's not.
I think it was a little by design. Yeah,
it was a little by design to lead to the Shorty G and Stardust thing. Fantastic match out of nowhere.
There was quite a few good things with SmackDown,
but that was the example of they're doing this instead of doing a draft and like putting a stamp date on it, saying, okay, guys, tune in on Monday for the draft, which we're all a little bit sick of.
Yeah,
just we're in an open, fluid time, and things will lock down in January. Then you never know who's going to come where. It made SmackDown doesn't necessarily feed right into an NXT pay-per-view, but it made that whole who's going to be the fifth guy in the Iron Survivor conversation a lot more interesting.
Yes.
I mean, I was kind of right in the preview, but we can set that aside for a second. But you've got this thing with Carmelo, who wants to make sure he's still one of the top guys, and Aldis says, "I've got somebody for you next week." Okay, cool. Now, is that somebody from Raw? Is that somebody from SmackDown? Is that somebody from NXT? Is that somebody from, you know, wherever? Is it somebody that we're expecting to come in, like a Hikuleo or a Penta? We could branch off into the Ray conversation, but apparently that makes me an asshole.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
every single time somebody now says, "I've got a surprise for you," the possibilities of that at least triple. And not even to throw in the fact that they've still got this back and forth thing going on with TNA. We've got new talent coming in, and the three brands are trading amongst themselves.
We had quite a few good things in SmackDown. Bianca Belair and Piper Niven had a good match. I like the storytelling there with Chelsea Green, and obviously Piper's not able to be in the tournament. She lost, and this, what they're telling there, and will they turn on Chelsea kind of thing, with Bianca kind of twisting the nerves. LA Knight, he sounds good. I like everything they had added with
The Bloodline,
Andrade
the
and
Bloodline
Carmelo
thing, the
probably getting
Bloodline
involved.
thing, the Bloodline jumping in on a U.S. title thing.
Yes.
Is that them finally setting themselves a view on something other than the Bloodline feud? Are we going to get Jacob Fatu as the U.S. title soon or whatever?
My thought really was that no, it's not going for the U.S. title yet, maybe in the future, but I think that they were just that's how it came across at one point, but I think it was more about them just clearing the ring so he could cut his promo.
No, that's my point.
Yeah.
Like that's my point. Like, not them, the storytellers.
Oh,
like,
yes, they could go back and touch on it. Gotcha.
They cleaned the ring
Yes.
of everybody involved just because they want to make a promo, and the people that they cleared out say, "No, wait, go fuck yourself." And one of those guys happens to be the U.S. title, so the U.S. title gets infused into the Bloodline story.
Yeah.
That way,
No, that's a perfect idea.
They
I get what
didn't.
you're saying
They
now,
knew they knew well enough not to fuck with Darth Sidious, Shinsuke Nakamura. So that's,
Exactly.
I mean, Nakamura Jacob Fatu is a weird heel versus heel match, like who can be the bigger asshole type of match. I always say, like, if we got Prime Flair versus Prime Eddie Guerrero, it would be who's the better heel.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
So that's the measuring stick, right? But like Shinsuke Nakamura doing the mist and doing all the shady shenanigans like we've seen him do at WrestleMania, whatever, versus Jacob Fatu, who's Jacob Fatu, first of all,
Yeah.
but also has like the one guy in WWE with backup that doesn't need backup.
He is the backup, absolutely. He's the backup to the backup to the backup. And one of the other things I loved from the night, obviously, was the, I don't want to say slow burn, but we've had this nice transition with DIY, and you think, again, another fan-favorite team is going to end up splitting because Ciampa's like, you're going to do it my way, and Johnny didn't seem like he was agreeing with it. And then you knew, oh, my God, the Street Profits are attacked, but don't worry, guys, we can step up. We need this match. You're my friend. We can do this. And the heel turn, and they got us twice this week.
Because the thing about that is, the thing about that makes that so cool
kiss.
is, it's cut and paste of, oh, this person got taken out, I'll take their spot. Like, you get the idea that it's a heel thing, right? So there's a story to tell there. Even if it hadn't been a heel thing, even if it was Johnny Gargano just being excited, just getting an opportunity, you could still then tell the story of Street Profits being like, oh, so somebody took us out and you couldn't wait to pick the bones, eh? Like, you could have gone either way even with that.
And
like,
as far as
so
face
open-ended.
champions go, too, it's nice to have the faces chasing the titles than being the champs. So this is a good little bit of a reset.
I mean, of course, the Motor City Machine Guns have been buried, Jake. Haven't
that's
you heard from all
exactly
the
what I was going
experts
to get
online?
into. Yeah, people immediately were like, oh, look, they're done. I bet you they feel foolish. They were only champs for a few weeks. What a waste. They're completely ruined. They're totaled.
They
And
won
it's
the
like,
tag titles in their third match.
do you not see the story? Like,
the
if
story as well,
Vince
but-
was still here, I could see why people could say, like, oh God, they're not 3 weeks curse again. Like, they're not being handled well because they lost the titles for no reason. There's a reason, there's a purpose, there's a story, it's logical. As where we would see our fan favorites go out there, a la the Street Profits. Think about the times they've dropped the titles nonsensically for no reason. And you were like, wait, these guys, shouldn't they be going to Mania? Like, they're things like that. We've seen it with another great team that was working until it wasn't, was Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. They had them with the titles, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, we're done. You know, things like that. We have that happen far too often. So maybe people are just Stockholmed all their way, to agreeing with Tony. But I don't think that that's the greatest outlook on things either, because, I mean, things being logical was huge for me, and just not making sense constantly really
other side
drove me
is
out of
still-
wrestling.
I'm sorry to say it, man, and I know I'm getting repetitive on your channel, on my channel, but I'm going to say it until it stops being true. People that are trying to dig at WWE, the only thing they have to live on right now is the ghost of Vince.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. And am I going to defend everything Vince did? No. Am I going to say that I know for 100% sure that he did all the bad things that he's accused of? Absolutely not. Do I think he was dicked out of his title and out of his position by cancel culture? Yes, I do. Has it become better because he got dicked out of his position because of cancel culture? Also, yes.
Also true. So it's like we're benefiting from the
Yes.
cancellation for once. It's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
hard to feel that sense of guilt for him, I guess, or compassion maybe is more the word. Less guilt, more like I don't have that care for him. Like, and people are like, again, shitting on the victim in all of this, and that always killed me too, because she was a young girl. Oh, she's an adult. Yeah, granted, but he knew the position that she was in. He knew the desperation she had, and he manipulated her to use that against her. He set her up to do certain things so that he could blackmail her into doing everything. That was the problem. Exactly how I treat my wife. Now, we got into Deadline right away, and I'm telling you, I couldn't have been happier that the men's match opened the night, because I knew now we're going to get the women's to close the show.
Yeah.
And
well, they confirmed it sort of throughout the pre-show. I do have to say, WWE and NXT included, the pre-show does some little bits and bobs here and there. You get the odd sit-down interview. They got to put something on the pre-show that makes it worth watching, because I'm sorry, people are tuning in at 5 minutes to 7 to watch the show.
Yeah, and it happens, you know.
I did, only because I'm going to shout them out once again. I was watching the Wrestling for Life guys and their live watch-alongs. Shout out to those guys. Go sub to them if you haven't. They're a lot of fun.
Check them out.
But, like, if I wasn't watching along with them, I would have set my TV alarm for, like, 5 minutes to 7 and watched the show. But they had Ava out in her Saturday best, announcing that Eddie Thorpe was definitely not cleared for the night, so we knew that right off the bat. There's going to be a famous last words in wrestling, suitable replacement.
Yes, not I'll be back, but suitable replacement.
Yeah.
Dun, dun.
So we knew about that, and then throughout the night we sort of picked up that the show was going to be top and tailed with the 2 Iron Survivor matches. It's not like when Elimination Chamber ended with an ambulance match that one year.
Yeah, it really should always be whatever the gimmick match is, opens and closes the show. It either opens and or closes. Like Hell in a Cell opened the show for Bad Blood, you know, that kind of thing. Either open or close your show.
Yeah.
So
and then
now,
once again, we confirmed at the very end of the kickoff that the men would be opening, the women would be closing. And then they went backstage and they said, yep, Ava's definitely got a replacement. And then the graphics came up and Sam,
that was it.
Sam, what's his face? He's like, didn't you ask the next question?
Yeah, Sam
like,
Roberts. Who?
He's
that was
good
kind
at
of
being
funny.
the exasperated, everybody else around me is dumb. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that guy?
And it was funny in the moment. I'll give it to him. I didn't hate it. So
yeah, I find him a little bit grating most of the time. He wasn't that bad on Saturday.
No, and here's the thing too. This was the solar opposite of what we got from Survivor Series. So as where the women didn't need a War Games there, it was just kind of a keepsake. The men have one. We have to have the parity for the women. Same kind of thing here. The women felt more like they needed the Iron Survivor match, but the men didn't make it feel like, oh, we're only here because the women are. They told their own set of very great stories.
Well, in this, the difference between what you're saying is there's nothing for the winners of War Games. I love War Games. Do 2, do 3. I don't care. I think it's a great concept. It's a lot of fun. People bitch that it happens too much. Whatever the case may be, there's different opinions. Because there's no basis for it. Oh, you just did a ladies match because there's a men's match.
Yeah.
With this, it's like the Rumble in the sense of both matches have equal footing.
Yep.
Both matches are full of people that are only there because they qualified to be there, and both matches are only full of people that want to get to those titles. So it's parody, but it's parody in structure, not parody in storytelling.
You nailed it, and that's what exactly the words. That's why I pay you the big bucks, you know, in Looney Bills, or not at all. I like to go ahead and see. You know, like I said, things make sense, and everything fits so well in here. Who they had, as you mentioned, they had to qualify. They want something. They all get something at the end. There's something on the line, so there's something to fight for. And when people have something to fight for, you get this pretty cool thing now and again called character development. The faces They're not these plucky, I'm going to go into a 5-on-1 scenario because I'm tough and cool, local kids. Like, no, you're going to get murdered and get your hands taped to your pockets and look like an idiot. Instead, you get the guys that are like, yeah, I'll help
They
you.
keep giving
but-
us examples of bad shit, and then the fans get mad because we use them as the examples of bad shit.
And it has to be so. I mean, but everyone in this match needed or meant to be here. They each served a greater goal to tell a further story. And Javon Evans, again, the plucky upstart, he's very young, he's 20, but he's fucking tired of hearing it. He's tired of people telling him, your time will come down the road. You're young. You'll do it eventually. You've got your whole career. Don't worry about it. And he's not a heel, but he's being upfront and honest like a real person would be. And he's like, nah, yo, fuck this shit. I'm going to win.
Yep.
I love the attitude. Wesley, he's a lover scorned. He feels like the Rascals betrayed him and he can never trust anyone again. And he wants to claw and fucking scrape his way back to the top. He was a great defending North American champion, but since those days as a solo act, he's not done shit. And he wants to prove not only to himself, but the universe in NXT that he still matters. Then we got Nathan Frazier, one half of the the WWE NXT Tag Team Champions, and they've done an amazing job with these two kind of put together. They become tag champs. They lose the belts. They regain them a week later. Didn't see that coming. You thought their reign was fully coming to an end.
I thought they would have gone the easy route, and when they opened up the slot, I thought, I don't want to say the boring example because it would have given a lot of cool opportunity for different storytelling, but I thought it would be a little cut and paste to have Axiom be
That's
the
who
last
I
minute
thought
guy.
was going to be the replacement, and I'm like, oh, this will lead to them maybe splitting in the tag match. I said there's quite a few possibilities, like you said, of different angles and stories that could be told. But we have
Also,
Ethan
why
Page.
it's important. Also, why it's important that this match went first, because you wanted to know which way the story was going to go. Does Frazier have his world title opportunity first, or do they have their tag title match first? What's he going to be
Which
more
one
tired
is he
for?
exactly?
What's he
Which
gonna
one
do?
is he healthier for?
And
Which one is he focused
To jump the
more
line
on?
once again, like, which one is he going to walk into with a busted face? Like, I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was supposed to be part of the story, but it added to it, right?
And, no, certainly, and that was we'll get to that too. But that's what added to the story overall, because it's like, well, how are you going to successfully defend the titles when only half of us are at 100%?
Yeah.
So that was a great story for that. Ethan Page, the former NXT champion, he came in and did it just after a couple of weeks. It became NX Me. What is he doing now? He's plotting, he's scheming, and it seems like he was okay with losing. We'll get to that, but the surprise. I could say I saw this coming and to sound. I honestly didn't. When we discussed it, you mentioned it, and I had said it'd be cool to have that, but you really hit home like, no, whoever the replacement is, they're going to win, and these are the possibilities. And you were pretty damn spot on with most of it, and at least about the motivations.
Yeah.
Obafemi is a great choice. You want to talk about a suitable replacement?
Yeah.
What is he only lost the one match against Tony D in how long? That was it. So he was a great defending, true North American champion, tore through everybody that was put in front of him, and it wasn't slim, easy pickings. He wasn't taking on jobbers week in and week out. So everybody deserves to be in the match. Everybody has their motivations. Everybody has their reasoning. Everybody has people they're working with.
And they didn't. I thought they would. They didn't hammer home that, oh, I'm going to go get some vengeance because I need to stick up for my boss that's had this happen and da-da-da-da. I'm not going to be this hired hand. They didn't touch at all on whether or not he was the one that did Eddie Thorpe dirty at the end of NXT. So all of that is still to play for. I think
exactly. We don't know who attacked Eddie, and it could be fucking Shawn Michaels, Spaz. It could be, and that's less than likely, but it's a possibility.
I want it to be X-Pac. Like, it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't fit into anything, but it's just one of those things like, I want to see it.
Oh no, I see that. I could make that make sense in 2 seconds time. I mean, think about it. Sean calls upon his DX buddies to help him out because Ava got hurt, and if he puts his hands on anybody, he's going to have a bad time. But Sean, you're just a legend. You don't really work here, so he hits him with a shovel in the head, and it doesn't really lead to a match. It leads to, they pick their guy, and Eddie has to defend him. There's 100 ways to have
Eddie,
it be
we're
done.
gonna talk about NXT Underground later on with the ladies.
Coming back soon, yeah.
Eddie Thorpe kind of grabbed everybody's attention in a NXT Underground match. Can you imagine Eddie Thorpe and X-Pac in NXT Underground?
That would be incredible. And
Here's the thing, because you talk about, like, is X-Pac going to have a match? Obviously, Shawn Michaels isn't going to have a match.
Yeah.
We saw how that went over in Saudi, and we don't need to talk much more about that.
Kane lost his mask again.
Oh my God, that whole
bad.
match is like, somebody wrote everything that bad that could happen in a match is going to happen. I was excited to see DX and the Brothers of Destruction beyond my better judgment.
It reminded me of like an autistic 5-year-old child writing a script in crayon, being like, and then his mask falls off and he falls off the turnbuckle, and then he tries to pick him up and then he falls, and then like some stuff happens.
Undertaker wins himself trying to blow the hair out of his face.
Yeah, he can't like get the hair out of his eyes, but it's cool because he's dead and stuff. Like that's That's
but
how
I put this question out the other day, and people thought it was a silly question, and then they started digging down on it a little bit. It's a little off the topic of what we're talking about, but in terms of people who you don't think would be wrestling anymore, like an X-Pac or a Shawn Michaels or whatever, what do you think happens first? I'm going to give you 4 examples. Nick Aldis has one more match. Adam Pearce has one more match. Barrett steps away from commentary and has one more match. Or CM Punk has a major match in NXT.
Ooh, so which one happens, or which one happens first?
Which one's most likely? Because I think it's Punk, but I want to see those other ones because they're more random.
Yes, I think Punk is going to have a match in NXT. I really think that when we come post-Mania, they've got plans for him. So long as he doesn't get injured, they supposedly have a whole like subsect of a tour to go around with Punk, where he's going to go from brand to brand and do stuff.
Nice.
We'll see how it plays out. It's early planning. It all depends
I'm just thinking, like, when he, and I'm going to say something positive, everybody, so hold on a second. When he did make his return to wrestling in the other company, and he basically handpicked his first opponent and said, I wanted to work with Darby Allin, right?
Yeah.
If he looks at the entire NXT roster and decides, I want to work with this person, say it's a Ethan Page.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this, whatever story they tell could be fun, right? Yeah. Punk would make him look good. It's the whole 9 yards. You get a bunch of Punk viewers to NXT that might not normally watch NXT, but that also tells the people within WWE that this is somebody that you should focus on and pay attention to.
This is somebody you should be watching out for and paying attention to. Absolutely.
And no, I'm not saying give Punk the NXT title before anybody loses their shit.
Yeah, no, certainly, but
although it would be funny for a day. He could do his own version of like Do-Rag Vince in ECW.
The world champion.
With the real NXT. Oh no.
Oh, he can get the spray paint out for that one.
he brings back the old square one that I hated.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the real
that would be
oblong.
Awesome. And he takes out the old one because that was the belt from the Dusty era of NXT.
There you
and
go.
He does it when he finally kicks off the rivalry with Cody, walks out on SmackDown, stands side by side with Cody and says, "Yeah, you've got a belt. That's nice, but I'm sure your dad would have wanted me to have this one."
Yeah, and they got to be careful too. I mean, they have way too many belts with these women mid-card titles now. They've got to be careful how these things are booked. Because I don't want it to turn into one of the issues they're having is they have such a big roster and they're going back to 3 hours. And funny that we should say that because we were complaining for years, go back to 2, then they get to 3. And it's not a complaint, but it is a rushed show. You can tell there's people that should be on there that haven't been. But
that's why I think they're
Final
putting in entirely new divisions. Like, yeah, I mean, they rolled it out poorly. But remember when they brought back the Cruiserweight division and they sort of like made everything different, the purple ropes, different lighting and all that. I think they even changed the commentary once or twice and had like the Cruiserweight portion of the show.
Yeah.
Now it was way overdone and it was hitting the nail way too hard on the head to be like, this is a different show now. But you're adding an entirely new division to a show. So it should naturally grow to whatever size it's going to be because you've got because not everybody in the women's divisions on both shows is going to be going for that world title. They're just not. I like Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega's not going to go beat the shit out of Becky Lynch. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
Shotzi Blackheart, I love Shotzi Blackheart, but Shotzi Blackheart's not going to go beat the shit out of Charlotte Flair.
No, no,
Like,
certainly
it's
not.
not. So you've got a whole other roster in waiting, a whole other division in waiting, and you better give them the time. We've been in the big war between them and the Mud Show. This is where we give them all the credit. This is where I'm going to look back at them when they restructure everything, when these belts are in play in 2025, and say, okay, we've been singing your praises. Get out there and fucking earn it. Like, and I mean from a creative point of view, from a writing point of view, from a booking point of view, not from a wrestling point of view.
Yes. You're
And they've
spot
still got
on
the tag
here.
they still got the tag titles to float around, and I think
Hey,
keeping
well, that's
those
the
as the
thing.
floater titles gives them a unique identity as well. They haven't announced the stripping of the tag titles,
Which
by the
is
way.
interesting,
Bianca was
too.
still out there, yeah.
Yeah, so if they knew that she was going to be away for a long time with a real injury, I think they would have stripped her already, which makes me think, oh no, this is all story. Because people were pretty quick to refute that, hey, she's not injured, she's not actually hurt, and it's all strictly kayfabe. That's why they released so many different injuries. Speaking of injuries, some of these guys destroyed themselves between that penalty box and whatnot. They started off the match on deadline. The actual show, we get those 5 contenders. So Javon, Wesley, Nathan Frazier, Ethan Page, Obafemi in the men's Iron Survivor Challenge. We started off best choice of competitors. Again, the young, plucky upstart in Evans and Wesley. They're beating the hell out of each other. They got some great offense in. You got Evans to go ahead and hit a really cool cutter, and then Wes cuts him off and does this really big springboard and goes ahead, puts his feet up on the ropes, and he gets the pin. So Wesley leads 1-0, and that's when Frazier comes in. And this match really started to pick up once the penalty box buzzed again, and we got Evans back in. We were seeing dives to the outside. These two were doing sling blades for quick up 2 counts. I mean, they were just clotheslining and beating the hell out of each other. We even got a really, really big Hurricane Rana from Wesley at one point that took everybody into the apron. That was cool. And then all of a sudden, we get Ethan Page to come in, and it wasn't long. He went ahead and he pinned Frazier. So we got a cradle on him. That was great. And the final, then we got one. Yeah, no, he pins Frazier. So Evans is in the box. And that's when Obafemi is the replacement. And I'm like, oh, shit. I was unsure who it would be, and I appreciated the surprise. Certainly a suitable replacement. And Obafemi comes right in, takes Evans, and just squashes the shit out of him, pins him. He gets one right away. And then Femi goes ahead and gets another pin, but Paige takes the ref out of the ring. And I was like, oh, shit, that's a great way to save it. So I wonder if they're going to go ahead and put Paige back into the penalty box. So Femi was ripping pissed, and he's slamming Paige all over the penalty box. And Frazier shoves him into there, and they lock it shut, and now you've got him both trapped together. Like, it was madness. But hearing Ethan beg for his life while trapped in this cage with a true monster was hilarious, and it almost made me wish like there was a way for him to escape, like a no roof scenario or something to climb out and like just but it was total destruction. He gets his hands on him, he beats him down just to get out of the box and win. Like, it was really that quick. So as soon as he gets out, you see Evans kind of dive onto everybody, and that ends up being where he gets Wesley gets the pin. So now you have everybody with one. Evans has a pin. Frazier, everybody's got one, so it's completely tied up. And right at the end, Femi comes out and he power bombs Evans, and Paige ends up rolling him up. And I'm like, oh shit! So now Paige has 2, and I'm like, this is time's a ticking. So Evans goes ahead, he gets another pin. Now we're back. We got the penalty box thing going on. That was hilarious. And like I said, as soon as you saw Emmy come out, he choke slammed 2 people. Who was it? Lee and Frazier. He did the double on, right?
Yeah.
At the end. So he pins both of them. He gets the points there. And as soon as he gets up, Javon hits a beautiful midair RKO cutter, diamond cutter, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And time expires before he can go ahead and get the pinfall for it. It puts Javon over. They played up the heelness of Ethan Page. They showed how destroyed Frazier was and what the story would be for the tag titles later on. And Wesley, he did some great stuff in the match, couldn't quite capitalize on it, but it tells more about him and his quest to regain some of his former glory. I loved this match. I love what they did here. I saw two major complaints. People were upset that Penta wasn't in the match or it wasn't a TNA crossover. I think Obafemi was the best replacement they could have had besides – because who would they have done? A Joe Hendry again? Or so? It would have been a big pop, but I don't want somebody coming in just to be set to lose.
No, but in this case, Oba won, though, so the surprise in that spot would have won. Joe Hendry winning, going for the NXT title, face versus face against Trick.
Yeah,
maybe
a good match, but not as
Penta would have been a bit more ambiguous because with him being brand new to the brand, you wouldn't know whether he was really face or heel. He could just go out there and be Penta.
Yeah.
Shout out to Casey is Raw in the chat.
Casey is Raw.
That was bugging me quite a bit was in both matches, when they had people like struggling to get to the box or not wanting to go to the box or whatever, they were starting the penalty time before they actually got to the box, which is such a minor thing, but when it's noticeable, it's noticeable. So shout out Casey. I saw that as well.
Yeah, they did start the timer way early, Casey. That was kind of funny a few times, but WWE always flubs their numbers because they want their stars getting back out there as soon as possible.
It's true, because if they see themselves running out of time, somebody had to know, okay, we have to start this timer out because they need to be out at this certain time in Raw.
Yeah, to hit the next move in time, they need to be out, so just start their timer.
Yeah,
and
just do it.
I wish it had a roof on it or a hatch for a roof, something like that. You can open the hatch to escape, because that was such a great moment, and I would have loved to have seen him try to get away more. I mean, that impending doom of him getting put in the box after getting pinned, and it made Obafemi seem like a monster, but not
invincible.
Exactly. It still left a human side to him. It wasn't a total...
It was kind of funny because it looked like he welcomed the whole match, but then even being in the penalty box, he welcomed that as well.
It wasn't Abyss in the Monsters Ball stuff where
Yeah.
you're getting hit with barbed wire and no selling it. It made sense. That RKO he sold great.
Or cinder blocks. It is what it is.
Or syringes.
I want to build on something, because they did something that I said they were going to do in the preview. Is I said you're going to start with the 3 high flyer guys.
Yeah.
You started with Wes and Javon, who are fucking fantastic. Nathan Frazier in there, you get into a different part of the story because how much is he going to do leading into his tag match later on. But the 3 of them having basically a high flying X Division triple threat match. But then you send out Ethan, and I said Ethan was going to be the spoiler, whereas he went in and got rolled up right away. So the people that are enjoying this high flying 3-way get this high flying 3-way for another 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I thought that was a really cool way to be like, oh, I'm going to be a spoiler. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
I think the amount of focus, consider the fact that Oba was the surprise, Oba was the monster in the match, and Oba was the eventual winner. And Ethan Page in this match is the former NXT champion. Obviously, he's going in there with that on his resume. And the ones that got the most focus were the 3 that I wanted to get the most focus. Even though none of them won.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully.
Even though they had to go like full Andre the Giant in a battle royal on him, but I don't think anybody lost here. Like I say, Nathan Frazier.
No one lost. Not even Andre the Giant. I mean,
Yeah.
I went ahead and really loved, as you said, how they put these other guys over in the match. Obafemi being the last entry served 2 great purposes here. One, because had he been there the entire match, he might have just dominated. So him having to catch up essentially from a slight deficit, not a major one, but at least he was behind. Other people still had energy. No one had a crazy amount of pins, which I enjoyed. It wasn't like they blew away with the numbers like one of the other times, but here it was very calculated, like, okay, I know who I'm going to pin when, especially having that penalty box play into the right times. You don't want all the competitors in the penalty box. No. I think that could be funny if you
But I think you're right as well.
If
he had been the surprise at the beginning, then he would have just been killing people the whole time.
Yeah.
But the opposite side of that, where everybody gets some shine, and even when he was in there, everybody still got some shine against him, which was the point. But I think by having him come out last, not only is he the monster, not only is he going to kill everybody, not only is it now like man among boys stuff, he's also the freshest guy in the match.
Yeah, exactly.
Which should be terrifying.
Even if he wasn't 19 feet tall, he would be still an intimidating
That's lying
factor.
down.
Exactly,
But I thought it was a lot of fun.
Watch out for early morning.
I do think, like, other than just being like broody guy that used to be in a tag team or whatever, they do need to pick a direction with Wesley, because right now
Yeah.
Wesley is kind of playing like what do you want to call it, like pouting asshole in the back, and that's like, the guy's too good for that.
Yeah, he's
He
stuck
really
playing,
is.
hot potato with his cousins. Just, in back, just waiting for his chance to shine. Casey, you're right too. We actually discussed it on Spaz's channel the other day on the State of Wrestling, a podcast I do with him, usually once a week, sometimes twice. Check it out. Description box down below. But
And in the chat, I've just plugged the hell out of
there
all
we go
my
too.
stuff
In the chat too. But
Hey.
the Iron Survivors penalty is much better than the King of the Mountain's entire makeup and creation and everything that it sets out to do. It does wrong. Still fun to witness at times, but oi, is it infuriating. So
I still like it. I'm that guy. It's a lot of fun. It's a little. It sounds. It's King of the Mountain. I said it in the preview. I'll say it again here. It sounds ridiculous until you see it in practice. The fact that you have to qualify by beating somebody before you have a chance to win is a really, like, they set themselves out a really tricky thing to book. And if it even, what's the comparison I use? I always use the example of Avengers. Not Civil War. What's the one that came before Endgame?
Yes.
Infinity War. For the amount of stuff that they tried to cram into Infinity War, it shouldn't have worked. And this is me. I'm the MCU guy, right?
Yeah.
And I walked into Infinity War thinking, if this even kind of works, they've won. For the amount of stuff that they're trying to achieve, if this even kind of works, they've achieved it.
Exactly.
If I watch a King of the Mountain match and walk away thinking, okay, that didn't fall apart, I'm sorry, maybe I'm being easy on it, but they've won for me. And it's the same as when they first introduced this. We talked about it on the preview as well, but when they tried to explain it and they didn't explain it very well, you were like, okay, let's watch it happen once and see what it actually is. But then taking it into the auditorium or the arena and making it work is another thing. Casey is raw. I get your point. The whole hanging the belt instead of going up to grab the belt.
It's so
get
hard
that.
to argue with that one, yeah, because it really is
I get
asinine.
that, but I think it's kind of cool. You have to have it that way because the element of you have to qualify before you can actually go and get it. Because if it was hanging up, somebody not qualified could go grab it, run away with it, and say, fine, fuck you, nobody's winning. By making it a hanging thing, you have to qualify, which means the referee has to say, yes, okay, you're qualified to go and win the match.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool element. Does it come off a little goofy sometimes? Yes, but look who you're talking to.
Well, that's the problem. In theory, it can be really well executed, but in actual execution, performance-wise, it leaves a lot to be desired.
It's the same as I would say with this. I wouldn't want to be the one charged with having to book this.
Yeah, certainly not.
It's like, it has to be so precise.
That's what I was saying, and they pull it off every time. Everything flows. Nothing was clunky. None of the times really lingered to the point where it was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save this moment. We didn't get that. Instead, what we got was a absolutely great ending. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing before we move on. One thing I heard over the course of last night, and I tend to agree, because right now it's a 25-minute match with the structure the way it is.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people saying that they wouldn't mind it being extended to 30 so that you have more time for the full field to go at each other. I wouldn't mind them trying that. I don't know whether I would like it or not because they have never tried it, but I wouldn't mind them trying that to have more time with the full field because, as you say, once Obafemi comes out, once whoever the last person is in whatever match you're talking about, the full field only gets to perform as a full field of 5 for 5 minutes. Or maybe
10 minutes.
Maybe it's 10.
Yeah,
10.
they get 10 minutes.
So maybe bumping that to 15 is something they might want to look at, make it a half hour, because 25 is a pretty arbitrary number.
Yeah. I like the idea of it because everybody adds their 5 minutes in essentially to the timer. That gives you a total 25, and it's kind of like a rounded, easy number in the sense of like, all right, well the last person comes in, so we've got 2 already in there, and if you each work out to be, so we got 5, 5, and 5, and it gives the last person, the freshest, only 10 minutes to compete instead of the full 15, and that's the advantage to coming in, later in the Rumble. As where the Rumble entry though. Really gives you an
until
advantage.
it's over.
For number 30, that's a huge advantage. With this one, It's
No,
good
I
in
appreciate.
some ways,
I
but there's a
appreciate
major
the
disadvantage
idea.
too, because now you're freshest, yeah, but you could be down 4 pinfalls. So
Of course, yeah. I
I
appreciate
like
the
that
idea of it being
discrepancy.
nice and tight, and the whole narrative being a ticking clock from beginning to end. I appreciate that. When people were saying 5 more minutes, I was like, okay, I'm not necessarily going to jump on board with that, but I'd be willing to let them try and see. Like the one year they did the 40-person Rumble.
Yeah,
I didn't mind the
exactly.
40-person Rumble. Now 50-person Rumble in Saudi, Titus World Slide,
That
different story.
that whole
40
Rumble
was
was a disaster. The only thing that made it memorable was
the
Titus.
fake
Yeah.
Yokozuna.
Oh my God. Oh, don't remind me. So after the great opening, we
Saudi
had
shows are great.
they're fantastic. Oh, beheadings, just we'll
Everything is
ignore that.
great. Everything
No
is great.
Bonesaw was ready, So Jada Parker, I like her. I like Lola Vice. I like that they turned this into an underground match. People are like, oh, it makes sense because Lola Vice, they seem to forget that she was a kickboxer, an MMA fighter. She was a cage fighter.
Yep.
She's done this. She's got actual, training and real legitimate combat sports record. Jada Parker, she's a badass from the streets, and, her and OTM, they're going to destroy everybody.
Mhm.
I liked this match a lot. From everything that they delivered, it hit except for one thing. I wish, and I know it's kind of a gimmick for Jada and what she's somewhat being known for, but I don't like the brick stuff.
I don't like
So-
any of the prop stuff. I thought they were really creative with the belt,
Yes.
with the jujitsu belt,
Mhm.
and I get that it ties into her martial arts history and why she works in this match. I get it from a storytelling point of view, but when I'm looking at the NXT Underground match, I is going to sound really pretentious. I want it to be them pretending that they're doing pure sport.
Yes, I got you.
Does that you know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't.
So
I don't.
want
I don't
furniture
necessarily
either,
like.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like the people being around the ring either. But that's a more minor thing. That's a I can take it or leave it thing. But as soon as they start going for props, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, this is where you're kind of telling people this is your lean towards, MMA, street fighting, whatever you want to call it. Different people brought different styles into it, even when it was bad when Shane McMahon was doing it. Yeah, it was fucking sick. It was
Now
fucking
you're basically
sick.
saying, "Hey, this is fake. This is gimmick. This is BS." When you had
This
that
is
air of
WWE
realism,
without ropes. Yeah.
I like the people
Look
actually
like-
being around the ring too, because it adds that street fight feel to it. Them slamming on the
look like-
mat, and
I get that.
It has just that
But here's the thing.
dirty
Here's the thing about
scrounge
that.
feel.
Here's the thing about that. I don't know how to solve this problem. That works if they're doing it in the PC, because the PC is a small building. You could
Okay.
build up that like truly underground fight club. Everybody just kind of got together in secret and in somebody's basement to have a scrap.
Yeah.
You can't mimic that part of the feeling in an arena. And I don't think you should be trying to mimic that. I think you can do the style of match, but don't try to mimic, being in somebody's dirty basement with Brad Pitt and Edward Norton.
I think
Like,
it was more
it-
just
that
trying to add the vibe to the fight, less of the dingy feel
Yeah.
and more of the atmosphere of you can't escape. There's people all around. You've got nowhere to go until you finish your opponent. You're kind of
Yeah.
locked in. I think
Yeah, so they're
that's
supposed to add
kinda
to
what
the
they were going
claustrophobia,
for.
but they're-
yeah,
But you can't
do that.
you
in an
can't
arena.
but that's what I'm saying. You can't replicate that, in my opinion. You can replicate that in the PC.
I get
or
what you're
in
going
that-
at in a smaller
or in that
venue.
dark room, yeah.
From a couple of the
I don't
fan cam
think-
videos
yeah.
I saw, they looked really good. It didn't obscure the view, them
Yeah.
being around the ring because the ring's
Oh
so
no,
elevated.
no,
and-
I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
I think they place themselves well enough for that. But part of the claustrophobia of being in somewhere like the Performance Center, or even if when they were doing it at the UFC Apex, right? Because it's still a small building, you can replicate that small feeling. The people being around the ring for an arena size thing, it's not. You're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and the square and the round are both good. They just don't match.
They just don't fit. It doesn't line up.
that-
And
I would have loved it
agree.
to be totally dark and maybe
that
have a
take?
spotlight on wherever they were fighting.
Yeah.
That could have been the mimic. And as you say, and I'm 100% with you, we don't need the props in this kind of match.
No, you really don't. And I don't want to penalize the ladies for this, but you couldn't really see what Jada did to Vice's hand. So when she was in the corner, they kind of, she had the belt that she was wearing and all of that. But she did something before she slammed her hand on the mat. She did something on the outside. And
Yeah, I think it was a knee drop.
Okay, because I couldn't really see. The camera angle was not good.
Yeah.
And then I remember somebody on commentary being like, "Oh, now she's not going to be able to throw those deadly punches," and I'm like,
and she does anyways.
Exactly.
I think here's the thing, and again, I have to admit when I'm being a hypocrite, because what they did with the belt, like wrapping it around her hand and pulling it backwards around the post, so she basically initiated like a fulcrum, because she had her feet on her head and her head was against the post, and she was leaning back.
Applying that much pressure.
I think from a technical point of, I mean, if you can be technical with props, but from a technical point of view, I think it was really well thought out, really played out. How am I going to bend this person this way, but I'm also stepping on their head, and you put some like the science of wrestling into it almost, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time,
that didn't hurt me with the belt. I hate the idea of bringing in a brick, because like you're bringing in a belt, you're wearing it. Cody has his weight belt. I'm a little less egregious than a fucking brick. You know, you're bringing that in, and like you said,
and
having
plus,
the realism goes from 10 to 0 real quick.
Yeah.
So I like what we got for the match. If they kept out some of the ridiculous silliness with, like you said, the plunder there, I think it would have been even better for both of them. But I really liked the ending. The ref stops the match with the submission hold, and
because you can't pin.
Exactly.
You can't pin. I had forgotten that as well. What I liked about this is it made me change my mind throughout the match, because I was thinking these two ladies are going to get in there and they're going to go all hell for leather and trading punches or whatever, and it started really slow to the point where it was almost frustrating. And then once I got past that and these guys were just dragging the hell out of each other, the fact that they were going so slow added to the, you're in that arm bar 1 second longer, you're in that knee bar 1 second longer, and it became a benefit when at the beginning of the match it felt like almost a deficit. And when you can change my mind in the middle of a match like that, you've done something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not easy to get behind, and it
was the sorry, Casey just reminded me as well, one of the things that happened to her hand was she went to do that spinning back fist that she's been doing so well and missed and hit the post at one time as well.
Okay, see, I missed that spot then, because I must have been taking notes, but yeah, see, because I knew originally she did something at one point, and I was like, okay, she clearly hurt her hand because they're making note of it on commentary. I didn't see the spinning, back fist to the post, so that makes even more sense. Cool. See, little production things, sometimes they don't replay. That would be good. Then we got Axiom and Nathan Frazier. You see they're wrapping up his ribs, and he just looks destroyed. And
I got one more question for you, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we don't want to add more belts. We know this.
Certainly.
But what if we swap out one for one and the titles are still the same, right? Because other than me, it seems like a lot of people are getting really, really sick of the Heritage Cup, because it's important and then it's not, and then it's important and then it's not. I like it. It's a different kind of thing. I kind of look at it the way I did when people initially explained the Pure title to me.
Yes.
Okay, it's something a little bit different. It's got its own space on the show, whatever. But it seems to me like most people agree that the Heritage Cup is more of a prop than a title that people are taking seriously, right?
Yeah.
Would you be on board with scrapping the Heritage Cup title and bringing in some sort of title or some sort of award for the NXT Underground?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, even though it's a gimmick, I think that that's something that can resonate with the crowd more, and they have a bit more of an accepting fan base for MMA now than they did before with the, I would guess you would say, proper match style that is the Heritage Cup. I don't know how you would describe that, but the more technical aspects of it and added rules and rounds and all that stuff, I would go ahead and I would stick with the Underground. It's pretty easy to make somebody look like a badass, kayfabe knocking somebody else out or choking them out, or Bloodsport has gone really well for a long time. I'm curious what happens with Bloodsport now with Barnett's stuff, now that GCW isn't working with AEW going forward. So no more Moxley and Bloodsport. That could be a reality. It seems like it might be, but
switches over to Shawn Michaels Bloodsport.
Yeah, I liked this match though, bud.
I wouldn't mind the Heritage Cup now that I've just taken a dump on it. I wouldn't mind the Heritage Cup being a once a year, once every couple of years, like tournament, like a King of the Ring type of thing.
Yeah, that would be better than doing it constantly, because I liked the Underground match. I really enjoyed it, and I think having it sparingly, like you said, don't make it like a must-have weekly, but every couple of weeks you can have it. You can defend the title that way, and I think it could be something special, certainly. But I like the Underground. Then we had, like I said, after Axiom gives Nathan Frazier his little pep talk about they're the best team in the world and rah, 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 go Fraxium. They take on Miles Bourne and Tavon Heights. So, we already saw them getting prepped earlier in the night. We saw Ren before getting, prepped. Everybody's on the way for something. So, you see some of the other teams like OTM out at ringside. They're just setting up more things for the future. So, all in all, this was pretty straightforward. I mean, Frazier bleeding all over the place from his nose. And they really just they isolated Axiom from getting to his injured partner very well. The way they continually cut the pie, so every time he was getting close to making the hot tag to Frazier, who was already destroyed anyways, they would bring him back and bring it back. I like that sense of heat, that feeling of urgency, like, oh God, if he doesn't make a tag soon, they're going to lose the belts. And I was never really under the belief that they were going to lose the titles here, but I thought it was going to at least build to where we got a more storied dissension between the two, like the fallout, the cracks would be more showing here, and things would be more finite as far as their end.
I was sure they were going to lose tonight. I was wrong.
Yeah.
And you were right about the underground match as well. Let's not let that go under the radar either. I was sure they were going to drop him tonight, and like Frazier getting his face busted open in the first match would be a contributing factor to that, so it wouldn't quite be a burial. You can go back to these guys either.
Right. Talk about a way to write them out of having he wrestled a full 25-minute match before. He wrestled 20 out of 25. What do you expect? Yeah.
But no, and I will say, like, everybody showed out in this match because it was the match with the least. I mean, there's a story with Fraxium, but as far as competitors, it was the story with the least. It was the match with the least story behind it.
Yes.
Because it was just literally
competitors versus competitors' sake.
Yeah, the story is the division right now. And I think that's a really cool thing. We touched on it briefly during the preview, but this whole idea that we didn't really pay attention to the tag team division for a while. And then Ava got them all in a room together and kicked them all up the ass and being like, let's fucking show these people that we have a tag team division.
And then it took her 3 weeks to make a decision for a replacement after she placed both members of the tag team into singles action. So
yes.
That's what I like about it, because she's like, yeah, I want to make a difference. Let's find you guys some partners. But then she gets overworked and overrun, and she's in over her head. A lot of overs there, but it's the truth. She just can't handle the full GM responsibilities. And I like the way that they're slowly taking notes and catching on to it. Like, they're not coming in there being like, you're the worst ever. But you see a subsect of the talent already being sick of Ava.
But they've even let you believe that in storyline as well. And this is something you've brought up a lot, and I never think of it until you bring it back up and remind me again.
Right.
She is new. They're letting her be new.
Yes.
They've always, when they announced her as the proper GM, I think it was the first time we saw William Regal on TV.
Yeah.
After coming back from the Mud Show, and he said, "I've done this. You're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna need help at some point. You know how to get a hold of me, whatever the case may be." And in kayfabe, she still answers to Sean.
Yeah.
So she has backup when she needs it, which leads into a story like what we had with Eddie Thorpe and Shawn Michaels and all that kind of thing. But
we still have developing technically, because it's ongoing.
It is still ongoing. But my point being, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to say, oh, I've lost track of my stars. One of my tag champions wants to be a singles champion, because we've done that before. Kurt Angle was the Eurocontinental champion.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler had nights where he would go into pay-per-views and defend his Intercontinental title and his tag title back-to-back. Back when he was tag team partners with Big E, before the New Day was a thing.
Yes.
And let's all tip our hats to the New Day not necessarily being a thing anymore.
Look at The Miz. He did it with the tag titles and the U.S. title, I think he had at that point in time, with the Miztourage and everything, and then they became the B team.
I mean, look at, okay, you can go three titles deep. Look at the two-man power trip.
Oh yeah, because Austin and Triple H,
World IC and tag
titles.
Think about back then. You only had one set of belts too, so that was them basically holding all the gold.
Yeah, they held all the gold in the company at that point. Now that they were the champs. I love that story.
It's the one upside you can say of, oh my God, there's too many belts. Like, if you got somebody you want to push, you can say, hey, look, they flourish as a tag guy and a singles guy. This is a really special talent. Like, I don't think you would have necessarily put Nathan Frazier up against Trick Williams, but Nathan Frazier, if they had gone the other way and it was Ridge Holland, tell a David and Goliath story with Nathan Frazier. Nathan Frazier goes into another pay-per-view, defends his tag titles again. He's tired, and now he has to face Ridge Holland.
Yeah.
That's a cool story to tell.
Exactly.
That's a cool story to tell where he doesn't lose anything by losing either.
Yeah, no kidding. And there's also a lot of what-if scenarios that come forward. Who really attacked Eddie? Who, there's layers and elements and lots of payoffs. That's what makes me enjoy it. That's why I was a little disheartened by the tag titles heading into it. I knew this would be a great match, and I give crap to AEW at times. I have to do it here. There wasn't a lot of story, as you said, but the story really wasn't who they were facing. The story was, can these guys coexist long enough to help each other after a grueling Iron Survivor match for half of your tag team champions? That was the story. Can the friends, overcome the odds that are against them? And so far, they managed to persevere. But how long can they keep, waiting above water?
But I think there's another story as well. I think they did because there's no story between the competitors, like we said. I think there is another subtle story because we know the guys in No Quarter Catch Crew are awesome. They're like wrestling machines, realistically speaking. Specifically, Tavion Heights. We've seen him truck people. We've seen him show up in TNA. I know he went over to somewhere in Japan and did some stuff for a bit. But it's one of those every now and then. We know the people we see as main eventers for one set of challengers or a singles challenger or whatever to be like, oh, that's not who we expected. Yeah. Let's just see what. It doesn't matter if they win or lose. Let's just see what they can do.
Yes.
From a strictly bell to bell match point of view, I think this match over delivered in spades.
Oh, absolutely.
The whole big, powerful, technical, Kurt Angle-esque. I know I'm gonna keep using that as a comparison point, but the Kurt Angle-esque. Right, this was. People are going to hate this, but this was a Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero or a Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio type match.
Think about how they got the crowd off from sitting on their hands chanting, "This is awesome."
Oh, yeah.
They worked them into a frenzy. So for some people, initial claims, and that's why I was being a little bit more nitpickish, because I'm nitpicking because I see people be like, oh, but they got no reaction for the tag match. And I'm like, yes, they did. It might have taken them 10 of the 15 minutes to get there, but they got them to cheer and go nuts and believe the false finishes, and they got them to really buy into all of it.
That's kind of where I'm going. If it was somebody prominent, the big pop, the big babyface pop would have been if Hank and Tank were getting the shot. They would have been cheered the minute they walked out the curtain, whatever.
Yeah.
But NQCC was kind of a reaction out of nowhere, a result out of nowhere, a title shot out of nowhere.
That's
so
three times we've got copyright infringement going on. My God.
Oh my goodness. Get a good old cup of Joe and we'll all be fine. Anyway.
Cease and desist.
Oh no, I will not. But the fact that they were so out of nowhere, I'm going to say it again, the fact that they came out of the melee of the Battle Royal and were the surprise and all that kind of thing, and the fact that they didn't necessarily have a pop when they came out there, and they had to go and grind and earn their reaction throughout the match, and that's a really cool thing to see, and that's why I say this match over-delivered in spades. You thought they were going to lean on the Fraxium breaking up story. We thought they were going to be easy prey because Frazier had his face kicked in the first match. We thought these guys were just going to be the next set of people that were there to make the champions look better. Nobody on any side looked like they were going to get any credit out of this match, and I think everybody did. This match, as far as compared to expectations, I think this was the best match of the night.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as
look at what we saw on
to...
Raw. Look at what we saw on SmackDown. We saw the New Day not break up and become heels and turn on Big E.
Well, kind of break up.
Yeah, but you get your semantics aside.
I got you.
We got the heel turn from Xavier and Woods that no one saw them turning on Big E. Everyone knew Big E would be there, but to turn on him, my God, at least maybe one of them, but not both. That was heartbreaking. DIY did
we
not.
Thought we were gonna.
Yeah. You thought, oh, Ciampa, we're gonna do it my way, and you see Johnny I'm not gonna, oh wait, I am. I want those belts back. We'll attack somebody and set it up so we get the shot, and we'll take on our friends and squash them. It was so many times they subverted expectations.
Sorry, what I liked about that as well is you don't see Johnny and Candice together very often, especially when Candice is off doing her own thing, but now she's also turned heel, so you didn't really see them on screen together. As soon as they turn heel, Candice is right beside them in the backstage segment.
Yes.
I thought, nice touch, subtle touch, but I liked it. So okay, here's something for the tag teams. We thought Fraction was going to break up. They didn't. They seem to be stronger than ever. We thought the New Day were going to break up. Well, the two active members of New Day are still together. We thought DIY were going to break up, and they didn't. Does this solidify that the next team to break up is going to be A-Town Down Under? Because it's not as impactful, but
it might. It might
five
be.
teams are teasing it.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine A-Town Down Under turned face?
As a team?
Yeah. I don't see
I think you'd split the crowd, because I think people will get behind a babyface Waller. I don't think they'll get behind a babyface Theory.
I don't think so either. When it came out of my mouth, it sounded like not a great idea, but that's the thing. Grayson Waller, think of how he was in NXT. He was an evil bastard of a heel, but
He was a dickhead, but people liked him. It's like, okay, this is...
So I think he can resonate with fans in a MJF-ish way. When he was like, "Oh, that's our scumbag," I think that's the kind of feeling.
I think you can turn him. You can turn him face without changing his character. He's always going to be a dick.
Yes.
Let him be a dick to other bad guys
with just different motivations. Exactly. Yeah, we don't see that often elsewhere, so it's nice to hear these little things. And that was one of the things that I appreciate as well: the ability to have that growth and development, and a chance to, really get them to not overstate this, but hey, these things matter. Heels, faces, reactions, all of it.
That was the other thing. Will Chisholm, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, in the chat also mentioned the Tavion Heights' partner, Bourne, getting Randy Orton RKO chants at various points in the match as well, because he's got similar, he doesn't have similar tattoos, but he's tattooed up to some degree. He's got the tribal style wrestling trunks like Randy Orton used to have. And he's built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah, he's
got
that Orton look.
He's not. I mean, I'm sure he is, but like they don't present him like Tavion Heights in the amateur wrestler style. But he does look like him and Kyle Fletcher are neck and neck in a young Randy Orton lookalike contest.
Right?
Kyle Fletcher managing to be a good wrestler and an entertaining wrestler, even on AEW. Well, so shout out to him for that.
Fletcher went from having a badass haircut to looking like he was awaiting bottom surgery at the transgender surgery center to now going back to being a badass. So that little blonde bowl cut that he ended up with for a little bit wasn't a good choice. The shaved
Are you going to be a wrestler or
is,
join a boy band?
Yeah, there was something to be stated. And you know what? We talked about this on your channel. Again, cheap plug, go check out Spaz Phoenix Podcast on YouTube. We're over there talking on the state of wrestling. I join him at least once a week to cover wrestling news, rumors. We go over NXT, TNA, WWE. We even touch upon AEW at times. So I'm setting up the tweet for
as
tonight.
little as possible.
Yeah, we had no internet working well last night, so I didn't get to send out the tweet before the stream. That didn't happen. So today, when setting that up, and I was checking the hashtags and whatnot, I was looking up NXT deadline, nothing. WWE NXT, nothing. So WWE deadline comes up, and you made a mention how, oh, look at the logo. It just says WWE deadline. But every single thing in that arena said WWE. There wasn't an NXT logo to be found.
Yeah, I don't like
anywhere on the signs, the turnbuckle pads, the hashtags, the whole wraparound. It's all just. I don't think they're getting away from the NXT namesake, but I think they might be doing away with a lot of the NXT branding, and they're just going to call it, it'll still be the NXT Championship, but I think they're going to refer to everything as WWE, etc. now. WWE NXT, WWE Deadline, WWE Stand and Deliver,
see, they did that in the very, very early days of Black and Gold, and I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now.
And that's the thing, maybe because that's something Triple H cared for at the beginning of Black and Gold. That was his idea and something he liked. He liked that level of comparison. For me, it just feels like it doesn't work.
When they first launched NXT UK,
yes,
and we were back in the takeover days, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like say it was London, for an example, right? It wasn't like Takeover London. It was WWE NXT UK Takeover London. I'm like, nobody's going to write out all that.
Yeah.
They're just going to say takeover, or they're going to say NXT London, or they're going to say something along those lines.
Yeah, I recall the extremely long hashtags, because that was during the time, too, where you really had character limits that were subtly
Yeah.
defined, like you couldn't go over anything. Never mind if you had a subscription. So forget
Just
it.
get a blue check. It's fine.
Hey, it works for some people, I'm telling you. So next up, we had Trick Williams and Whoop That Trick coming out to a raucous crowd, all chanting and singing along. I love it. Booker T, you got to shut the fuck up. You're killing me. I made Danny laugh. I was killing
Here's
her.
a surprise.
Yeah, right? I sent her
I don't
the
mind it.
compilation. It bothers me at some points when you can't hear the crowd chant over him.
No. Fair.
I don't hate it all the time, but there's certain points where I'm like, all right, you're just
Everybody
doing.
says they hate Booker and Vic like bickering on commentary. I like it.
I like
think
that too.
It's looser, and you see it on the main roster. Obviously, in the new regime, everybody's a bit looser. Michael Cole finally getting the credit he deserves. Obviously, for
I can
various
just
reasons.
do without the Little John impressions the whole night. You know the what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know. That
But you know what the thing
shit's
is though.
good.
The thing is though is it goes both ways because when Trick's cutting a promo, he'll point over to Booker and be like, "Yeah, I like it."
He's got to have him do it. So it's
Sorry
back
for
and
being the
forth.
whitest guy in the room.
Second whitest now. Hey, you know, I'm
There we
still
go.
here, but these guys came in again, deficit word of the day. They were behind because the story was well told, but no one ever believed Ridge Holland was walking out here victorious and walking away with the title. They even had a really great close near fall. So Trick goes ahead and I forget exactly how, but he like tumbles and then he gets his head stuck between the top and the middle rope and kind of like flips. So he gets himself guillotined in between the ropes. And it was an intentional
near
thing.
the end, you're talking, right?
Yes, yeah. And the referee frees him. And all of a sudden, Ridge hits him with this massive DDT. And the crowd bought into it. They thought that, oh shit, he's done. 1, 2, 3. Great near fall. Besides that,
And here's
moment,
where like card layout
Yeah.
matters and all that kind of thing, because this couldn't have been the main event. First of all, I'll tell you that right now. Second of all, you go into this match knowing that the winner is going to face Obafemi, and you kind of think, okay, maybe they are going to give it to Ridge, because Ridge getting his ass handed to him by Obafemi would be really fun, because he's such a dick and he's all done all these terrible things and he's killed Chase U and Roddy Raw. They put the death of Chase U and the "Hey Mr. Chase" thing at the end, which set you up to believe that somebody was going to come in and interfere, and they didn't. I don't think that was the greatest idea.
No,
I'll be honest, man.
We were
there's
missing
not-
that side of it. We were waiting, like you said, anticipating someone to do something, and even Ethan Page, like anybody, and that's that was my original prediction.
or somebody new, like we speculated.
Yeah, something. We got nothing of that, and it was kind of jarring because they had this incredibly crazy near fall where Ridge, you think he's going to win with a DDT, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's mad. He goes for a pile driver. It's over because he got a trick kick and a flying knee. And it was just like, wait, it's over? Like, it was just very quick jarring. Like oh, he got him. But it
I
didn't
think
feel
what they
out
were
of
trying
nowhere.
to do was like, I think they were trying to do I don't think it translated very well, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I think they were going to try and say, with him getting caught up in the rope and like fucking up his neck, and Ridge immediately taking advantage of it, Trick realized he came within this close of losing his belt, but also he's in a bad situation, so he hit a desperation move as hard as he could just to get out of there.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do that. It didn't come off very well, though. It just kind of
No.
felt like they had a cool moment and they had a cool tease, and then we waved the tease away and the match ended. I'm going to be honest
The
with you,
delivery
man.
was really disappointing at the end, like you said, and especially being the NXT Championship, not being the main event, that kind of hindered it a little bit as well, because your main title should be your main event most times.
I'm
The women
gonna go with
deserve
you.
the spot here. It's just
The women's title on NXT is the main title right now, man.
No, I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
But when the women's title's not being defended, you figure the men's would be the main, and that's not the case. And I understand why, because there's a certain match that's coming. But still, it's still kind of like if you don't over-deliver, then you feel like a mid-card title reign, you know? And that's kind of where we're at now. Trick had a good defense with Page, but with Ridge, he never seemed like a credible challenger. He's not a champion yet. He's not of that material or ilk. He's on a decent heel run, but I feel like they really neutered him here. And that was kind of unfortunate because we had two really great, Iron Survivor matches, and I really liked the Underground match and the story they told. But the other two, I mean, the tag match was decent, but it kind of, it didn't tell enough of the story that I was looking for. It was good, as we said, but still, it felt like, all right, the challengers aren't going to win.
You know what I would have loved to see?
What's that?
Is if this had been a really quick match, like, because Ridge Holland, I know they're trying to do something with it. I know they're trying to tell a story with him and whatever. If they had this be a really quick match, and especially when Obafemi is going to be your winner of the Iron Survivor, have Trick go in there, get a relatively easy win. People can all feel a bunch of catharsis because it's revenge for Chase U and all that.
Yeah.
Have him be confronted face-to-face with Obafemi right then and there. Have Obafemi grab a microphone and say, I don't want to wait till New Year's Evil. And you do a flash title change out of nowhere. It would have been cool. It would have set up a really firecracker rematch at New Year's Evil. If you know Trick's leaving and if Obafemi's going to be your next champion, and you
go with it,
you jumpstart it, and then you solidify him at New Year's Evil, and then maybe Trick shows up in the Rumble or something like that.
Exactly. Look at all the different ways you can go with it, and exactly. So we really needed these other things to be like true hits. I sound like a hypocrite because I'm not saying like this match, the Trick match especially, should not have been in the main event. It didn't need to be in the main event, but your title should always be like main event focused, and it didn't feel that way here. You were already, like I said before, in a deficit because Ridge didn't seem like he was going to be
the same category as the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble, and as I say, and I don't say this as a defect because your women taking place over the men on the roster isn't necessarily even a bad thing, right?
No, certainly not.
I think the race to get to the women's title is better booked than the actual men's title match. I think this match was exactly where I would have put this on before the tag match and tell the story that Nathan Frazier had as much time as possible to recover. Ava made a decision on the fly that we're going to do the world title match first to give Nathan a chance to recover his face and whatever. Put this smack in the middle of the card. I'm going to tell you something, man. I don't think there's very many people that defend NXT in all its different versions more than me.
Absolutely.
So I give them every possible benefit of the doubt that I can. I was doing anything else during this match. I was distracted by my phone. I was distracted by the live streams that I was watching.
Yeah, it was very hard to
I couldn't focus on this match because my level of caring and my level of, oh my God, is something unique going to happen, kind of fell out the window.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the beginning of the night because Obafemi is a good choice for the Iron Survivor, and I'm happy for him. And when he does take on Trick, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think it'll be a great match, but
you still have that fall down of WWE and NXT have been so good at giving us these really big moments, these really big surprises. And as we say, like the Pentas, the Hikaleos, the Joe Hendrys, the somebody from the main roster, like there's an empty spot. It's going to be a huge surprise. Whereas it wasn't a huge surprise. It was just somebody that made a lot of sense.
It was very logical, which is a good thing.
Is better. No, which is better.
It is better, yes.
It's better. What they did is better than a random surprise.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It meant you didn't really get that, holy fuck, I can't believe so-and-so is here, right?
It lacked the catharsis of that OMG, yeah.
Yeah, the myriad of opportunities that open up as soon as Pentagon runs down your ring, or as soon as, oh my God, Hikaleo's here. Does that mean the Bloodline's going to be coming onto NXT more? You have all the...
Especially when you have a night booked in such a way where every single entrant, there's no fillers. Typically when you get any of these matches, especially on the main roster, someone is always added to the Elimination Chamber.
To make up the... It's our truth, usually.
Exactly.
It's our truth or Santino.
And we didn't have that in either set for the men or the women. Everybody had a reason, a desire, a motivation, a purpose, and those are the things that I have been dying for ages. This
is the praise that I gave them for the opening match too. Is like you gave the three high flyers, the three exciting guys that have not really had world title opportunities, the most time you could possibly give them. You had two of them, then you had three of them, then Ethan Page came in and you eliminated him immediately, so you could focus on those three high flying guys. You gave them as much as you could before Obafemi came in and Godzilla'd all of them.
Yeah, and
I think the way they did the match is great. The way they threw Obafemi in there is great. It makes more sense than a surprise, but it meant we didn't really get a surprise. So it told you you're having a different kind of night, which meant when I got to the world title match, I'm like, this is just going to be a match. This is a match that would have survived based on its surprises, and I don't think we're going to get a surprise. I was watching KJ and Nick.
Yeah.
I was answering my phone. I was updating my Twitter.
Doing everything.
I can't tell you anything that happened in this match. I can't.
See, because there really wasn't much that stood out, and really, I mean, like I said, they traded DDTs at one point. Going through my notes, I said you saw a really cool Uranagi slam that Trick hit on Ridge for a good 2 count, and I said Holland had a big top rope splash. Trick avoided it, and whoop, that Trick chant was big, and that was about it. That I a few other small notes. I did appreciate the effort they put in, but to me it was like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. It's not a terrible title defense. It was just lacking any gravitas, any real thing to pull me into it. So, and the wrestling is always good with NXT. It's consistent. Typically, the wrestling is good in AEW, but you get a lot of botching, or the problem is the storytelling. Here it's making sense, so that there's a reason to be invested and care with these characters, is where over there it's like, well, they've been the same since they came in all these years ago. When they started 5 years ago, Orange Cassidy has made no progression at all. He's in the same place as the same person as the exact same character.
Well, I showed you the Instagram reel I found the other day of all the ladies that are now in NXT or higher that had like one match in AEW and said, fuck this shit.
Exactly, and where they started from. Well, speaking of the ladies, we'll get into the last match here before we close this out. Sol Ruka, Stephanie Vacour, Zarya, Julia, Ren Sinclair. Ren kind of, knocked her way into this match by passing out and
I love
basically
Ren
getting
Sinclair
knocked
after
out
this
into
match.
the win. And they even had a callback to that in this, which was awesome. Like the other match, this one they had a different mindset of. They were going to have it be a perfect tie all the way through, and who suddenly gets the last pinfall. They let every single one of the women shine. They made everybody believe, like, oh my God, this person could win this match. They gave everybody a moment to really hit some great sequences and shine as well. So you had the physical side of it, but you had the storytelling, because Julia and Stephanie have been working together since they've arrived. Now they're in a match where any women can win. Anything goes. And so you saw them.
They're also really telling you every time they go face to face, hey guys, you guys want to see these ladies fight, don't you? Don't you? You guys want to see these ladies fight, don't you?
So every time those two in particular would go ahead, and Stephanie was the final entrant, they went ahead and they separated them in one way, shape, or form. Sinclair worked her way in, and that got Zarya to take on Julia. It was these things that kept the interest alive without having them have to fall asleep and pretend to be dead on the outside. It was scripted in such a way where it all not only made sense, but it really gave these women a chance to show their best assets. So I was thrilled with the storytelling here. Zarya, you saw the frustration. She was the fourth out. So Julia, Ren Sinclair, they started. Ren held her own in the beginning. It was really good. And she didn't get the pin till the 10-minute moment, and Julia did. So that says a lot about Ren. I'm sorry, Ren was one of the highlights.
Probably the highlight, because she kept it light in a way that was real. Like, she's the least experienced. She's, the least, if you were stacking up where everybody sits on the roster, she's on the bottom. She could be accused of being like the R-Truth of this match because she's got such great comedic timing. But every time she got pinned so somebody else could, I think every other person in that match that had a pin because they pinned her. Yes. I think that was the story. So she's like the definite number 5, but every time she like got out of the box ready to go, like with a little bit of that Thea Hale enthusiasm, getting back in, immediately gets another move, immediately gets pinned again, and you got that look on her face like, oh my God, are you serious? And just like, she's so resigned to it, she just rolled back out and walked back over to the thing. But it was done in sort of a heartwarmingly comedic way that didn't make the whole match seem silly, but she brought some levity to it.
Absolutely.
Sol Ruka, though.
Sol was the highlight of this one for me. I wanted her to win. The soul snatcher that she got. Yeah.
The fact that she's working it out to be a double thing, and she's modified it slightly. Shout out to, I think it was KJ that pointed this out over on his channel. They've modified it enough from, okay, this is always going to be a contrived setup in the corner at the end of a match, to basically it's her RKO, which we
Yes.
kind of knew anyway, but she's doing it from everywhere. She's showing you that it doesn't have to be this contrived, okay, let's walk to the corner so I can do my move. But she's also adding a new move to her arsenal every time she gets in the ring.
Yes.
And that cartwheel that she did, she basically cartwheeled across the ring and cleared the ropes.
I forget what they
on
called it too, but I
They called it
loved
something, yeah. But I don't.
I think I thought I had it here somewhere. And oh my God, a few times here. So they had probably my favorite sequence of the entire match. Julia gets she's got the double submission, right? And all of a sudden she gets the pin on Ren right at the 10-minute mark, and that's when Zarya comes out, and then she's frustrated because she can't get the pin, and that's right when Ren, bitching, running her mouth, gets out of the penalty box, and she climbs into the ring, and she gets hit perfectly with the Soul Snatcher, 1, 2, 3, and she's right back in the box.
Yep.
And you hear her, God damn it!
Yep.
Like, just yelling, damn it, damn it,
Yeah,
damn
yeah.
it, freaking out because she's back in the box, and that was hilarious. And the sequence itself was like, oh, she's in, she got pinned, she's out. Like, it was so fluid. The transition was great. I died laughing. I loved that spot. So, fourth, as we said, Zarya. Fifth, Stephanie. This is, Sol Ruka really, really, that dive she did out to, it didn't look like everybody was waiting to catch her because they were still brawling. So that was a nice spot. She really shined. Sol Ruka, I was hoping would win this, but I'm not upset that I didn't get the prediction right and that Julia got the win here at the very last second. I mean, you didn't know who was going to win because you see Zarya.
The last sequence between the two of them is fantastic.
I know, because Julia drives Zarya with the knee, and then she's pinning her, and that's right as Stephanie rolls up Julia after the fact during the pin attempts.
Yeah.
Time runs out, Julia gets it, and wow, like you get the confetti going off, that's going everywhere. Great moment, and I was curious if anybody would come out. We know they always save the best for last. They did that here.
I'm kind of glad they didn't, though. Like, I'm going to say the same thing as I did with the War Games match. Like, there could have been 100 surprises in War Games for how deep that story is. Yes. I think the win, and I'm going to say the win here as well, not so much with the guys, because we kind of could have used a surprise with that one and even with the world title. But in this case, because these ladies are killing it, so it's basically the 3 newbies plus whoever else they put in with them. And that seems to be the mold at the moment. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't feel like they need to throw another surprise in on top of this because it stood on its own, and I think it deserves to sit on its own.
I wasn't disappointed that they didn't have any type of surprise in this match or after the conclusion. I was fine with Julia taking the win and walking away. I'm simply bringing that up because that is something people were waiting for. I think they felt like all night because there was no real surprises besides Obafemi, and that's not, as you said, the surprise they were hoping for.
Right, yeah.
It made a lot of people either seem ungrateful or just unapologetically, just out with their opinions, and not always the worst thing to be, but certainly it was a bit disheartening because they were trying to entertain you, and just because there wasn't a surprise isn't always the best reason to be upset. Granted, I love the drama and the importance they put on this match, especially at the end by having them all be tied at 1. So it really came down to, oh shit, it's anybody's game. Who's going to have it? I didn't want anybody to have that one runaway victory. Like if Julia had 3 and everybody had 1, you knew she was going to win the whole time, a la Super Cena. We didn't get that here.
Although there are characters that you could have gotten away with that with. Like if Oba came in and just fucking... Oh, that's the other thing I meant to mention. Yes. Oba being behind and then winning because he pinned 2 guys at once to bring himself up to 3 points was a nice thing that I forgot to mention.
Yes. But I preferred how it played out in the women's match. I really did.
There's times where that whole steamroller, I'm just going to pin everybody I can, does make sense because you want to build them like a monster. I mean, at a stretch, you might want to say that they're trying to book Zarya as a monster, but not in that way. I love the match. There's 2 little nitpicks that I have, and I'm bothering myself for even mentioning them, right?
It has to. Hey, you got to...
The endings were the same in both. With Javon Evans and Stephanie Vacour, both of them going
and running out of time.
Going for a 3 count when there was only 2 seconds left.
I think that's just part of the match, though. Like, they're still trying to win, so you're always going to be going for the next pinfall.
Yeah, but... Oh, no. It's always a run to the end. But they came across as being so exactly this. Neither one was bad. Let me be clear.
Yes.
Javon Evans is awesome. Stephanie Vacour is Stephanie Vacour, man, they present her like a fucking star.
She is a fucking star.
Well, she is a fucking star, but they present her as such. They didn't just slough her off and make her say, hey, get in the ring and try to make Sasha Banks look like she can wrestle.
Absolutely.
But the other thing about it is in both matches, and I know like it's the outside chance, so we're not going to see it all the time. They really drilled down on this deadline in a way that they haven't before, on the fact that if there's a tie at the end, there will be a sudden death. And the more they drilled down on it, the more I was like, let's have a sudden death. Let's do
go
that.
ahead and try.
When the ladies had a 4-way tie and the only one that didn't have a pin was Ren, and I'm like, okay, she's going to get written off as she's the one that got ragdolled, she's out, and the 4 of them have a sudden death. But then the really big victory moment, the whole coming together of Ren getting all the pins, the fact that she got a pin and got on the board, like that was her win. She got a pop for that. Like she got a huge pop for that. So it was 5-way. So when they were scrambling at the end, and I was like, okay, not only are they going to give us a sudden death, they're going to give us a sudden death with all 5 women. And then they didn't. And then Julia got her one more pin. And then we saw Stephanie going for a pin. And in the 5 seconds it took her to not get that pin, I was like, okay, we're going to get sudden death between Stephanie and Julia because they're the ones with 2. And then she didn't quite get it. It mimicked the Javon Evans thing. But I'm like, okay, you've built in this sudden death part of the Iron Survivor. You've really been hitting it home on commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're making me want to know what sudden death in the Iron Survivor
See, I think
context
that's
looks
a
like.
thing they can do that for next year now. They have something to build towards. And they didn't want to do Julia taking on Stephanie, and
No, of course
we
not.
need a definitive winner match because it got broken up last time.
But if you say, hey, if there's a tie at the end, the 2 people that are tied have to go to sudden death.
Yeah.
And it had been all 5 of them. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe this on top of I can't believe this.
Yeah, that would have been wild.
I know it becomes a math equation at some point, but like all 5, yeah.
And thankfully, they don't do it in the sense where like they need a winner. They don't do it where like, oh, you 2 tied, so now it'll be a triple threat number 1. You know what I mean? Triple threat for the title kind of idea.
Jake,
so
Jake, maybe you can answer this. Will Chisholm in the chat saying all the confetti and the streamers and whatnot falling around Julia felt very Stardom. I haven't watched a lick of Stardom.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
do like the ribbon things that I've seen at from clips of ROH shows that I've seen and stuff like that. I think it's really cool. There's always the other side of that of you don't want dickhead fans throwing bullshit in the ring.
Yeah, but no, Stardom,
it's a really cool visual.
New Japan,
obviously.
all of them, they've done the streamers for a long time, and it's kind of a show of respect over there, and a way to like ingratiate yourself with the audience. Like, oh, thank you for your honor. I appreciate working my body for you. Is basically like the take.
Oh no,
I
get it.
from it.
I think
so
it
definitely had
really
that
cool,
Stardom feel to it because she was such a prevalent player there to the point where they were making it was like her. She was like the Cody Rhodes. Like her finishing the story was more important than the main event titles. And she was in the main event of several of their WrestleMania level shows without even being the champion at times. Like they did one where she was the tag champ and just things like that. So it's basically like, get your butt in here, let's do this. And I'm excited. Think about all the possibilities we have. I see why they didn't go to sudden death, but I would have been cool to see, but I didn't need it. So the 2 Iron Survivor matches were great. They elevated both the characters on both sides. They gave both the new people on both sides a chance to really develop. So everybody got their chance to shine.
One more question for you for the ladies though. Are you surprised they went with Julia again rather than giving a shot to the other 2 with Zarya or Stephanie Vacour? Are you surprised they're looping back to Julia already?
I'm not, because I think there's the intention of a story. They have a specific story they want to tell here. I don't know if it is as simple as just Julia beats Roxanne, or does Cora get involved again and she has to find a partner and then we lead to a final conclusion. But I think they want Julia as the next women's champ. I think they know they have something big with her and they want her to be in that top position. They envision her being the next big deal in the company. So I really feel like probably Stand and Deliver. We'll get a title shot before then. Something will happen maybe, and then it'll lead to Stand and Deliver. Maybe you never know. We could see Julia get a chance. She doesn't win, and then we have to find someone else. Anything can happen on the way we're building up, but I really feel like if anyone's going to take this home, it's going to be Julia. I think she's going to be the one to go ahead, and she just wants to take it home and take the belt back with her. So,
And going back to the NXT Underground for a second, you think Lola Vice now picks her new direction and she's going after Fallon?
I think so. I think that that's going to be another story they tell as well, because she's got this great gimmick match behind her. She can beat the snot out of people, so the threat is real. The challenge is there. And Fallon's had a good run, last few weeks. It's
been short, yeah, but
it seems like she's, what I'm saying, so far it's been good.
Yeah.
It's like she fits the belt.
Yeah.
She seems like a champion. She's had the one defense, so I think we can get a lot more out of her, obviously. I'm just excited to see where these new mid-card belts go. Are they ever brought around NXT as far as the women's mid-card belts? I doubt it.
I don't think so.
I wonder if they'll have any of the NXT females ever come up to challenge in like an open challenge scenario. I mean, there's a lot of what-ifs here that we're unsure of, but still, I'm very
The
pleasantly
open
excited.
window or the trade window or the trade whatever they called it on SmackDown brings a lot, and obviously a lot of people are saying it's just the new name for a draft. SmackDown and Raw people are going to shuffle around for Netflix, and maybe we're going to call some people up. I always am the one to put my hand up and say, if it's a 3-way open window, who do you think comes down? Like, who do you think comes down to NXT for a bit? Like, does like a Baron Corbin run or a Becky Lynch run?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I say Shotzi.
Shotzi's a great.
Shotzi, yeah.
I knew you were going to pick her, so Shotzi's a great one. I would love to see Rhea
Am I
while
that
she's not a
predictable,
champ. Right? Hey, only with her. If Rhea's still not a champ, I would like to see her come back down. I don't want to see her do it with a title, but she could certainly have a good story quickly and elevate whoever she's working with.
She's already got an existing story there with Zarya.
Exactly. So there's a lot they can tell.
And she can kill some people.
I could be. Imagine her and Zarya team up for their Dusty Classic type for the men and the women. Like they could. There's a lot that they could do here. We saw it work well, like you said, with Baron Corbin and
her and Zarya versus Bianca Belair and sorry Bianca, it looks
the
like
War
you don't have a
Dogs.
partner. Oh my god,
it worked out.
The babyface steamrollers.
Out of 5 stars, I don't know. I usually go out of 10 though. So out of 10, I'd probably give this show probably about a 7. 5 matches straight through, but I like what we got. And maybe 7.5 because the 2 deadline opening and closing matches were fantastic. I really, really, really appreciate that they're always building new talent, building new stars, and constantly giving us new people to cheer for. I don't want to crap on AEW, but there's no one there right now that really makes me want to tune in.
No moratorium.
Not here, not today. I liked cheering for MJF. I liked it when he was our scumbag, and then it got ruined even more than it was being ruined with the devil stuff, and then it just fell off a cliff, and now they turned it again, and it feels very absent-minded. At least with here, there's so many levels. Punk is owed a favor. I'm a big Punk fan, so Punk's owed a favor. How does he get to Mania? How does he get to the main event? What road does he take? Who does he face? Does he stay a face?
Oh my god. Paul Heyman owes Punk a favor.
Yeah.
Punk is heavily involved with NXT. NXT drafts Roman Reigns.
Right? No more.
It's not going to happen.
No more to SmackDown or Raw. We'll just stick you back. But yeah, there's people like that can come back. Roman would be a great one to make a return, especially with his smug face thing he's got going on right now. We've got New Year's Evil to look forward to. I
still got to look into whether that's an actual pay-per-view or not, because they intentionally didn't specify.
I think it's just a Tuesday show, because all I see right now, New Year's Evil will emanate from the city of L.A. on Tuesday, January 7th.
Okay, well then there we go.
So I don't see anything about it being a PLE, just a
No, if it's Tuesday,
show,
it's a weekly show.
Yeah. So I'm saying nothing else was announced besides that, so I don't think
There's
there's any PLE coming.
I don't know if you've got it there in front of you because I'm ill-prepared, obviously. There's one more that's happening in December that's not in the PC. I think it's either this coming week or next week.
Let's see here. But
they didn't say too much about it, but they just said they mentioned it as an excuse for Ava to mention the one in January. So
I'm looking here. I'm trying to see the calendar. I don't see it listed because they're doing stuff on main roster. I'll have to go back and check after. But yeah, I know there's something
intentionally vague.
Yeah. I know there's something coming up soon, but yeah, all in all, I mean the other few matches were not bad. They were okay. The tag match was good. Like we said again, not a big reason to care, but the outcome was good, and now we see where they go as a team together. The main title match, we got to see what happens with Trick and who he's got to face next. You know, a lot of options and things for us to talk about after NXT this Tuesday. And then, of course, Lola Vice. I really did like that match. It was just the championship match and the tag match. They were well wrestled, but the story left a lot to be desired. So I could even go with a 7.5, not quite an 8, but in that realm of things, I would say. What about you, Spaz?
I think I'm being nicer than you tonight. I'm going 8.5.
Wow, yeah. I mean, those deadline matches can't be overstated. Those were excellent.
Going down the road here, like, we didn't get the surprises in the Iron Survivor matches, but also they gave us matches that didn't require surprises. The ladies killed it in NXT Underground. The ladies obviously killed it in the Iron Survivor. The guys kicked it off with the Iron Survivor with the surprise inclusion of Obafemi. I think I'm a little higher than you. I think the biggest over delivery of the night was the tag title match. So I think that's sticking a little bit higher for me than it is for most people. The only real letdown, and we kind of knew it going in, so it wasn't even that much of a letdown, was the men's title match was just not very engaging.
Yeah.
But that's one match and a bunch of other matches that I think over delivered. So 8.5. I wouldn't go 9. But 8 feels not enough.
8.
And you got a box.
Is great. Yeah, and I got the box, but it was supposed to be on your solo cam, but that's okay. We got the intro going back, you know. We're just switching through it all. We're getting back to me, but I like your 8.5, sir. I see my 7.5s, and you raised me 1. I'm excited for what we have to talk about this week. We have a lot going forward. Really quick, it's Liz's birthday today, so you see her link is in the chat, but you can go over to her Twitch account and say happy birthday to her. We're going to leave the chat and right over there, and we're done here. But she sent me something nice enough for Christmas, so we're going to go ahead, and I have the box pre-opened, but I've not looked yet, so I'm going to go ahead, and I told her I'd open it on stream. I wanted to see, and holy shit, that's actually... I ended up getting a very gorgeous, the brand new Cody Rhodes hat. Look at that shit. Holy hell. I've been wearing this hat for many, many, many years, so I look forward to having, finally, not just a new hat, but a Cody Rhodes hat. That thing is gorgeous. Look at that, the American Nightmare. Thank you so much, Liz. And there's more in here, too. Jesus Christ.
It's her birthday, and she's giving you presents.
It's her birthday. She's giving me gifts. She does have something on the way to her house, but it was supposed to be here yesterday. Now it looks like it won't be there till tomorrow morning. God damn it! I wanted it for her birthday stream, but I appreciate it. And I also have oh my god, I have the new Cody Rhodes shirt too to go with it. Look at that,
nice,
sexy bastard. Holy hell! Well, it's your birthday, Liz, and here I am opening stuff. Thank you so much. I can't wait to come hang out with you for your party over on Twitch. I can't wait to take these out and switch it over. Oh, my God. I've been wearing this hat for so long. I know people are hitting me up on Twitter. You can do that again. I'm alive and well on Twitter. You can go to twitter.com or x.com/countdownended. You can find me over there. I know Rose Gaming was asking questions throughout the night as well. He popped in before. He said, hey, Jake, are you not working with Joe anymore? I hope everything is all right between you guys. Yeah, Joe's very busy. He's just extremely, extremely busy. He can't do Out of Nowhere anymore. He's busy all week and just didn't have time. So, unfortunately...
Yeah, you're stuck with me now. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I'm stuck hanging out with Spaz. Joe's just far too busy all the time. So, he's got Saturday nights, it seems. Besides that, he's just far too busy.
Jake's here just making me look good. Let's be real about it for a second, folks.
You know it, baby. Hey, you make yourself look good. You know it. But, yeah, 8.5, 7.5. Make sure you guys go ahead, show Spaz some love after you wish Liz a happy birthday. Check out all of Spaz's stuff down below. Spaz, you can give him the usual spiel. You're the best at plugging yourself, my friend.
Giggity. Pause. All right, you guys want to check out more of me and Jake, check us out later on this week over on my side of things. It'll be on YouTube at Spaz Phoenix Podcast. It'll be on Rumble at Spaz Phoenix Podcast. It'll be on Spotify at Spaz Phoenix Podcast. It'll be on iTunes at Spaz Phoenix Podcast. I think I'm still on Amazon at Spaz Phoenix Podcast. The next thing I think we're doing is the preview for Saturday night's main event.
Yes, indeed.
And anybody not able to join us on Jake's side of things for these live streams, I'm also posting the audio portion of these live streams over on all of those platforms except for YouTube, because if you're on YouTube, why aren't you watching Jake right now?
Exactly.
That's it. That's all for me.
I appreciate it, bud. We had a great night here tonight. Again, one more time, happy birthday to Liz. Shout out to Casey as Raw. and Will Chisholm and everybody else. Miguel was in the chat. I appreciate you guys hanging out for the night. We'll be here this upcoming weekend. That's right, because I have the only Saturday night's main event. Unfortunately, Spaz will be busy with Christmas stuff, but I'll be here.
Christmas stuff. Yeah.
I'll be live.
Sorry, guys.
We'll be having fun. Spaz and I will cover it, obviously, on his channel beforehand, give you guys a bit of a preview.
We get more news on those out of the PC NXT episodes. We'll touch on those as we go.
Yeah, we'll advance as we go. But to everybody in YouTube world, thank you so much for hanging out. We appreciate it greatly. You all stay sexy. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys soon.